Oh, okay. That's where you're from, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm originally from Riverside, California, and I've been doing comedy about 8 years now.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah. What about you?
I want to say 5 or going on 6 years. I started in Champaign, Illinois. So from Alabama, came to Champaign for grad school.
Okay.
Was doing like a lot of BLM, Black activist movements to the point where it's like like when you're in that life, a lot of times you're just it just consumes you, almost like stand up. So I'm going to the protests. I'm studying the shit that I'm learning about. So by the time I got the stand up, I just needed a break, and that's how that kind of connection with stand up came in, or comedy in general.
So you went to grad school in Champ. So you from where again?
I'm from Alabama. So a spot called Opelika, Alabama. Bro.
That sounds scary.
Country as fuck, bro. I think it used to be like a sundown town. So
I believe it.
it makes sense. Checks out.
Is the area you grew up in the reason why you got into activism?
A little bit. It's always strange, right? Because when you're from Alabama, people outside of Alabama, like, you just immediately know it's racist. You should know this. Like, I knew the history, but when you're in it and lived in it, you just kind of chop it up. It's like underlying tension. Like, I know it's there, but I didn't really have like the language really until like I went to college, started seeing how other people live. Like, oh, this isn't, then you start thinking about your high school experiences. Like, that was a little fucked up. And then when I got to Champaign, it became like a whole, like, it became like third gear, just
like so obvious because of the See, I had that click during quarantine. So for me, Riverside was, I'm so glad we have the word micro expression now, because it really, you remember the 90s? You remember, like, there was no word to describe, like, why am I being followed around? Like, and when you explain it to white people, like, well, they're just making sure that.
it's like they don't see it. It's like they don't see those experiences.
So, and where I was from, I would have spikes of crazy racist shit happening. So, like, getting attacked, getting jumped, classic, getting arrested, things like that.
Normal.
Yeah, normal life stuff. And then between those spikes was a constant hum of racism. And then when quarantine hit and everything quieted down, I was like, I took some time to think, and then George Floyd got killed. And then that, for me, it was like, oh, this will be the moment that it clicks for white people. I was so naive.
That's how it goes all the time. It's crazy, Aaron, because a lot of times, like, for me, it was like the Trayvon thing hit me. That was failing in my memory, but even then, like, I was like, damn, this is fucked up. But I didn't really decide to do anything about it until, I want to say, Eric Garner for me. It was Eric Garner seeing that, and then I just graduated 2015, and then I went to grad school, and then it was like, I met up with some people that they knew a lot more about activism. You start reading, you give black folks a chance to read, you start seeing history, right? Oh, whatever happened to Trayvon, Eric Garner happened 100, 200 years ago. So, like, what are you doing about it now?
And so, okay, so you go to grad school and life starts changing. You're doing activism and whatnot. How was that experience? Like, what does that look like? Because I know it's not the Panthers, it's not 70s, so it
was different. So BLM movement was pretty much led by black trans women, right, or trans movement, which is cool. So, like, coming from Alabama, that I didn't have a lot of history of that, right? I didn't really know what that meant. I grew up in, looking at the Panthers, looking at all these other, black men-led movements, and for my chapter was really led by black women. So I was able to try to just really take a step back. I was doing a lot, but I was being led by black women, black trans women, and I understood a little bit more about gender during those times. But, like, yeah, bro, I was doing a lot, man, because I was activism. I was protesting on campus where I was working at and going to school at, and then I was also working with the community. So I was doing both things and still trying to do, all these different things, right? So at some point, it just got to the point where, you start doing a lot. I went to Oakland one time, active. That crazy over there. Oakland is insane, bro. The way they do it is like it was anarchists. It was white anarchists. I remember, like, 2016, right? We was doing there was like a mass prison labor protest. So I went, I got the funds from my grad school. It was at a conference, but I went to go hang out with those guys. And it was like the summer. Like, I had a little speech together, doing my little speech. I saw people taking off clothes, putting like all black gear on. Like, what the hell going on? They started throwing rocks at police. I was out of town, so I always say I was throwing pebbles. Nigga, I was around, but people getting arrested. So it was different. So Champagne really taught me but it got, like I said, got to the point where I was just doing too much. I started having dreams about getting shot by police. It just got to the point where I need like a different type of release, damn near.
So before we get, that's a lot. That's a lot. So first, I gotta ask, in terms of approach, you hear. Where I came from, I always heard, well, Aaron, they just gotta be peaceful. If they're just peaceful and they don't cause a stir, and it's like on one level, you can't make change unless someone's upset, right? Like if someone's not uncomfortable, then nothing's gonna change.
Exactly.
And ironically, like Martin Luther King's approach of just not doing anything made them super uncomfortable. But then you also have this like self-defense thing.
Yeah.
And I guess in your opinion, because my pendulum has swinged from super non-confrontational about it and understanding and using logic to radical as fuck. And now I think I'm somewhere in between. I'm not sure, but I don't know. Where do you land on how do you even do anything?
I appreciate both approaches, man, because I think people always forget what MLK was doing at the time was a radical movement, right? Like during the 60s, it was pretty much, like you said, not doing anything, right? Like, when people, didn't get allowed to vote, like black people were just getting beat in the street, all these different things. I think what King did which was so monumental, was that whole nonviolent approach, which I think worked in the South because think about it, if you're in the South, bro, the Klan was everywhere. So the things that were going on with Malcolm in the late 60s, well, in the 60s in general, but more so like in those pockets where, in the cities, the urban areas, it was a different approach. But what King did, he for the first time put America's racism on display, right? Like think about the 60s, Bloody Sunday, when they filmed the whole black people getting beat for the first time, America which was this amazing, like this haven, right? We support everybody, we love everybody. So when that happened and he was highlighting it, like people, this is America for the first time, it was horrific. But I think now, I don't know if that approach actually works because we know what America is, right? America doesn't give a damn.
I really, and it's crazy how even no matter how many times you film it, like what was it? There's so many.
Yeah, just pick one.
The L.A. riots.
Rodney King.
Rodney King. Yeah. That was one of the first like home camera VHS ones of it, and so people lost their shit, and it really has gotten to a place where it doesn't seem to. And same with school shootings and shit. Like I don't know how many times we got to film a school shooter
over and over again.
It just doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, I think I got over in like 2015, 2016. It became like almost like black trauma porn, right? Like you saw, it's like you don't have to film it. You have to, and a lot of times, like you see it, and people are going to be held accountable. But more times than not, people don't get held accountable. So we're just highlighting the last few moments of a person's life.
And they're not fun moments either.
Exactly.
Dog, I don't know if I told you this, that I started taking jiu-jitsu.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I started taking jiu-jitsu. It's been a few months now, and those chokes, they were bad when I first saw them. It's a different thing to me now.
Yeah, because now you know the experience, like the history of it, right?
Well, it's not. Now I know what because I'm getting choked out every 2 weeks, every week. Someone's putting me in those exact same chokes, except I can be like, all right, okay, that's it. It's about 2-3 seconds. I'm good. Just to do that to a man or a woman, or to do that to a person for God knows how long, is crazy.
Minutes. It's crazy, dog.
But there's one more thing in the Black history thing I wanted to get into, is the Black trans women. I really want a history lesson on that, a quick one, and for some context, the racial stand-up comedy trans experience for me is a complex one.
It's different. I can talk with comedy is a whole different thing.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited to get in this with you. So I date trans women, or I have dated trans women, been with trans women, whatever. And in the beginning of that, I would say fetishization, because there's no, you don't. I mean, it's not like now. I'm gonna sound so old. These kids these days, with their TikToks, now they get to learn. But your only access to that is either porn or some sort of parody in film.
Yeah.
And so as time has gone on, mature, talk to trans women, learn more, and learn how to navigate those feelings in a way that's more respectful. I feel like I've kind of come to that place.
Yeah.
But then then we got Dave Chappelle. Now Dave Chappelle's in my top 5.
Yeah.
He's a black comic. He fights for black people specifically. But then it's like, now we got the trans stuff, and it's a go back and forth. And I know that one of the things I keep hearing, and I've only heard it from white people, so I want to hear it from someone who actually like knows with more context. What is the history of trans or black trans women in all of these movements?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was segmented to a large degree, right? I think when you look at it within our community, it's always a us versus them. Like, oh, we're over on the side of black rights, they're on the rights of trans people, gay people. It's like the two can never, mingle or whatever. I think for me, being in that space, I'm gonna get into Dave Chappelle in a little bit, but for me, it was after organizing with them and saying, I think if you look at it from a Pan-Africanist approach, or what is it called, or a connection, shared collaboration, right, or shared connection to struggle, right. At the end of the day, I really believe, like, if you support the most marginalized among us, I think that is going to be better for everyone, right. So if you look at the points of all intersectionalities, right? When we talk about oppression, as a black man, oppression impacts me on a different level compared to a black woman, compared to a black trans woman, right? So if we're able to liberate, at the end of the day, we're all black. So after organizing with BLM, I never saw that distinction, right? Making sure that we are all people and making sure that if we support our most marginalized people within our community, there's going to be significant freedom for everyone, right? So I go in it with that approach. But I do think it's the thing about comedy and history. So I went into a whole different
There
tangent,
you go.
but I think a lot of it started with like separate, right? The Black Panthers, the nonviolent connection with MLK. I think a lot of it started in New York, right? When you look at the Stonewall Rise, right? In terms of Marsha P. Johnson, there's Sylvia Rivera, if I'm not mistaken. So these people have already been organized, right? It was a small sector of, mainstream, but in New York, they were doing what they had to do. Even in gay rights, right? Bayard Rustin was a really big name in history, in black civil rights history.
This is a black gay man?
Yeah, black gay man, as well as, what's my man's name? The writer, I should know my history.
You mean to Google? I mean, you're killing it right now with the
history,
names.
right?
No, you killing it with the. You're naming all of the bloodies and the riots and all of them.
It's been a minute. It's been a minute. So Bayard Rustin, as well as the writer.
James Baldwin.
Thank you.
Oh, word?
That's the I could not think of James Baldwin.
I'm so proud of myself. Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so all those things are happening at the same time. So, you can pull away from different people and learn so much about struggle by how other people did it in different parts of, I feel like, black culture.
So for you, it's like, what is that quote? I'm gonna butcher the quote, but essentially it's they took the blacks, we did nothing. They took the Asians, we did nothing. They took the Puerto Ricans, we did nothing. Then when they came for us,
there was nobody else to support us.
Yeah, that's essentially the logic that you're bringing, and I'm with it. And I think what I struggle with is not the black part of it. When it comes to all of this, it's like black trans people, black gay people, black straight people, black people. I'm like, y'all need to get on the same page.
That's how you do it. That's the only way you can.
But then, in learning about myself when it comes to trans women and my own sexuality, and learning more about the gay community, I'm like, oh, y'all niggas are racist. Fuck. Like, white gay men? Woo.
It's different. I think that's the issue with Dave Chappelle, though, right? I think he's tackling gayness and transness as a white issue, which
right.
I think if you look at it in that approach is different. But when you look at, disproportionately black trans women, black women just dying at a higher rate, is different, right? So
yeah, and I guess I struggle because on one end I'm like, look, y'all get Matthew Shepard, I believe is Was that the gay boy who got killed in like Ohio?
I think so. Yeah.
And I'm like, y'all, and the LGBT, all of the stuff going on right now in politics with the woke agenda. We can't even say woke no more. That was a good word. I really like that word.
It was doing it. It was doing good things. Then I think it got played out. I think so many people were saying it and just
they're real
lost
good
its
at
meaning a little bit.
taking it, just molding it into some shit. But it just is difficult. And then within, even to take Dave out of it, within stand up, I'm like, well, all right, here's I'm a terrible interviewer right now.
It's all good, G. This is a complex shit.
The concept of punching down in comedy. What do you think about that?
I think it's one of those things where I don't necessarily do it just because I'm one of those comics that talk more about my life, right? So I do have some jokes about, whereas it can be deemed as punching down, but it's one of those things like, what is the general message, right?
Sure.
Are you punching down to make a statement about society? Or are you mimicking society? Or are you just literally punching down? Because, that's how comedy was for a large part of its history. 80s, 90s, 70s. Like, let me punch down on black people or punch down on gay people for that quick. Like, the 90s, full of it, right? That's all the 90s comedy is for a minute. So,
I got to skip the first 10 minutes of Delirious. It makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, like, God damn.
It's so uncomfortable.
Let's skip this part.
Yeah.
So some stuff just doesn't apply today, but I also think it's one of those things where the game's change, right? This is the comedy evolves and changes. Before Richard Pryor, they were, black folk weren't even talking about how it is living in a white world, right? So every year, every comic pushes the envelope further. I think there's new rules. So you can punch down all you want to, but society has a more of a role, right? You can get canceled quicker. In the 90s, you can say whatever the fuck you want to say. People laugh, people be upset, but it's like, man, shut the fuck up, right? But now we have social media, so you can do whatever you want to do. I'm strictly for, like, you want to punch down, but you have to expect the cost that goes with that.
Yeah, I'm with you there, and I'm gonna play hypothetical devil's advocate.
Gotcha.
So if let's say I'm one of those punk rock comics where anything goes, and I say to you, there is no such thing as punching down. What do you say to that? There is no punching down in comedy. It goes every way, every which way. Anybody can get it.
I think it's based off your audience, right? I think it's very much like, I'm thinking of, if you're too big to fail, right? I think with Dave Chappelle, Dave can pretty much say whatever you want to say because of who he is. Now, if an open mic comic says, hey, I'm going to say what the fuck I want to say, it's a lot about building your audience, who your brand is, right? Like, I keep thinking of like who, Nanette, right? Who's Nanette? Hannah?
Oh, yeah, she's Hannah Gatsby.
Hannah Gatsby, right? Her audience, if she invites a punk rocker to that, then you can say, yeah, that is punching down.
Sure.
There's gonna be there's gonna be an issue with that. But if you're one of those comics who've already built their audience based off the things that you say and they're okay with it, if your audience supports you enough to go along with that, is it like, it's punching down, but at the same time you have your fan base that can support you, compared to, like I said, an open mic who's just starting out saying offensive shit. You don't have that clout.
That's always the funniest thing to me when new comics go in. They all think they're Andrew Dice Clay, and they're like, "I'm gonna edgy." It's like, that's not the move you want, man. You want
because I feel like you got to be funny first, right? You got to be funny, and then you can pretty much. I agree with the fact you can say whatever you want to say up there, right? I'm not gonna be, this motherfucker. I might look at you crazy if you say some shit, but you can say it.
Yeah,
that's how I feel. Punching down is only like much as society allows it to happen.
Yeah, it's perspective essentially.
Exactly.
So speaking of comedy, so you go from grad school, shit's getting real aggressive. You're starting to fuck with your mental health. How old were you when you decided, let me just do this stand-up thing? How did that happen?
I was 25, bro. I remember it like it was a couple years ago. So I was 25. I had just finished up like from grad school shit. I just got my master's. I was doing a master's PhD, right? So I'm like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. The activism shit was burning heavy. I remember watching a BET Awards, right? Like it was Leslie Jones was hosting. And I was just kind of just riffing and, roasting different things. And, my ex, my current ex now, she was like, hey, you should do stand up, right? And it just kind of clicked, like, cause I was already doing some different shit. Like I was trying to learn how to play bass guitar. That didn't really stick, so I was just trying, like, and when I heard, like, stand up, like that's something I would like to try, because I don't tell a lot of people this, but like it's in my set now. But I had a real bad like speech impediment growing up, like really badly. I have a twin brother, so he was like the mouthpiece of us. So I didn't really do a lot of talking. So I was always self-conscious with my lisp. So there was always things kind of hold me back from speaking. So when I tried stand up for the first time, I did halfway decent, right? I didn't get booed or anything. So I was like, oh, this is something new. I haven't experienced this, the way to talk to people in a way where I was getting more of a. It's always you can attract more flies with honey versus vinegar, right? Like I was hellfire and brimstone, get better America, yada yada yada. But then with stand up, I can still say what I want to say in a way that makes people laugh, but also make people think.
So then you were in not Charlotte. You were in Champaign when you started.
Yeah, I was in Champaign for like a year before I started and moved to Chicago.
That's probably smart.
Yeah, I don't think I would have made it in Chicago. I struggled for like 2 years in Chicago before, like during the pandemic is when I got my buddies. I started hosting my buddies and it started moving up from there. But before then, bro, it was a struggle.
Okay.
It was a struggle.
So you're starting in Champaign. How was the scene? Was it
very small? Very small, like maybe 50 comics, if that. It was a supportive scene. Like it was me and another guy that we did stand up with, one of my good friends, right? So his name is also Kadeem. He's in DC DMV area right now. I think Maryland area right now. But when we started, the guys, it was funny because in Chicago, if you don't know, like, there's so many clubs, so many DIY spots. People can just pick up a show. In Champaign, it was like maybe 2 or 3 open mics, right? And the 2 guys, they're twins, they ran a show along with the open mic, right? So they saw a lot of promise in us. So that first month, like we were like trying to figure shit out. Within that first month and a half, they booked us on their showcase. And it was like 40, 50 people. So we got immediately like, okay, we have to transition from open mic to legit paid comics. So that wouldn't have happened in Chicago. I feel like that would have took some years.
Right. So then about a year, what made you decide like, okay, I'm ready for Chicago?
At the time I was doing my master's. I had made a decision like I'm no longer going for the PhD. Like I said, my ex at the time was in Chicago. I knew I wanted to go to Chicago. New York was always the dream, but it was just like I didn't want to make it that jump. So let me see, give myself an X amount of years in Chicago. If I make it here, then we'll see. So I just left my PhD program for comedy.
Well, good for you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm the best decision. The best decision I've made, man. I made so many connections, so many people that and I've just enjoyed the work that I've done. I still got a day job and shit, but stand up is the passion.
Yeah, I get that. I also see. For me, I went to college. Everyone was like, you can't do anything art related. You can't do it. You're not the person.
Really? They just told you that? Like
everyone.
Why was that? I'm confused. Was it like your family? Like you're not good enough stick to being a doctor? What was?
So my upbringing was like, my family was one of the earlier families to be integrated into white neighborhoods, from what I understand.
Okay.
And
trailblazers.
Yeah, we call it that. Yeah. And with trailblazing comes a lot of struggle.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think black people approach survival in different ways, and they approached it through assimilation.
Yeah.
So it's like these people are burning shit on our lawn and they're throwing stuff at. Let's just keep them calm.
Yeah.
And then so my grandparents did that. Then they raised my mom in that, from what I gather. And then my mom raised me in a suburban area with that same general mindset, minus
don't rock the boat. Do it, become a doctor, lawyer, assimilate. Yeah. American dream. Yeah.
Keep the white people comfortable. Get an education. Speak well.
Yeah, those are the 3 principles, bro. That's it.
That's how you survive.
Did they say I was asked this because I grew up in very not really similar, but a lot of the same, those 3 things that we talked about. Did you get a lot of like you talk white type vibe?
All the time. Yeah. To this day, I can't, and I want to get into it, but I can't go to a South Side mic or a West Side show or whatever without at some point having to address like, yes, this is how I speak.
Yeah.
No, I'm not doing a character. Now, I don't.
This is.
I don't.
I didn't make this up.
No, this is how I talk. Like I don't even think I speak white.
Yeah.
To me. Have you seen Sorry to Bother You?
Yes. That's
the way I love the way they depict what it is to sound white. Where Lakeith Stanfield's character. Okay, so for context, for anyone actually listening to this,
It's a good show. It's a good movie.
it's a really good movie. Weird, but really good.
Yeah.
So the character starts working at a hotline,
Like a phone call.
Telemarketing.
Telemarketing. Yeah.
telemarketing, and one of the old black dudes sitting there with him is like, you got to use a white voice, and he's like, well, everyone already says I talk white, and he's like, no, you got to use the white voice, and he's like, what do you mean? And he describes it as like at ease. There's no worry in the world. You know nothing bad's gonna happen to you. You deserve things.
Yeah.
And he's able to. The joke is he uses a different. What is the
You talking about the actor?
the actual voice actor is.
I don't know who the voice actor is.
He's hilarious. He's in Mr. Show. It doesn't matter. Regardless.
Paul F. Thompson?
No,
Mr. Show?
it's another guy. Doesn't matter. White man.
Okay.
And the way they do the voice thing is brilliant because you hear what it really is to sound white, and it does sound at ease. It sounds like
Carefree,
truly carefree. So I don't think I think I sound stressed.
Yeah.
All the time.
It's a thing, and that's the thing, bro. It's like a lot of times the way we categorize or separate differences in black communities is wild. Like, bro, you're making the distinction when that doesn't necessarily have to be there.
Yeah, we are fucking ourselves up with that.
Yep.
And so yeah, I get the whole sounding white thing. And then I grew up around white people, and so there in the 90s, in the early 2000s, and that distinction's so important.
Yeah. Right before social media. Saying what the fuck they want to say.
Oh my God, dude! They would say crazy shit to me, crazy.
And because you're cool, you're not like them. I can relate, bro.
The amount of times I heard. Hold on, let me restart because I'm gonna go into it. Hold on. Hold on. The amount of times I heard, well, Aaron, you're like a good black person. Like you're one of the good ones. And they so sincerely deep down believe like this is a compliment I'm giving you.
You're one of those guys.
Yeah.
I always tell, because I grew up around country whites, and that's like I said, that's at least in California. Is Riverside like country, or is like there's a distinction between more liberal?
It's fake. Okay. I don't want to take away from your struggle, and I don't want to take away from mine. And they're both struggles, and they both are valid.
Yeah,
they're just different.
Yeah.
For me, it was tough because they would manipulate you. So I thought I was crazy. If something bad would happen to me from an aggressive white, the nice whites would be like, well, Aaron, well, were you sagging your pants though? Because I know that's really an aggressive. What was your hair? Like.
So they was utilizing respectability politics to keep you, I guess, stifled.
Calm, yeah.
Calm is fine. You did. Yeah. It's a little bit your fault, but I get it, man. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. What on your end? How were
my end? It was like categorizing me as because you get good grades, because you know different things, and you've been my friend, you're not like them. I can say things candidly to you, and I always remember this experience, bro. Like at the time, I was trying to date or trying to talk to a white girl, right? And you learn so much. Like you learn so much about dating when you're like 14, 15, 16 in the South, or just in general around white people. So I was trying to talk to this girl, and they were like, hey man, but you might want to talk to her big brother, bro. You got to be careful because I don't know if the family's like that. You got to go through the family. Like, oh shit. And then so one of my guys was trying to talk to the brother, and the brother said, "Oh, Kadeem, yeah, that's my nigga. He can date my girl." Like, oh my God, we never even dated after that. Like, after that shit, like, so even at that point, like, that's a little strange, but. At the time when you're growing up in the 90s, there was no, social media. Like, bro, Alabama was very late, so we only had one motherfucker with the Apple, with the iPhone. I didn't see iPhone for years, right?
It's the 90s, y'all also in the 70s. Yeah.
So I'm thinking like this is just my experience, but now you on social media, you see shit happens all the time, and you have the language for it. When you're young in the 90s, bro, like you just had to chop it up to, maybe it's just me.
Yeah, it got to a point where I have this metaphor. Tell me what you think of this. Being black in a general white area feels like being the youngest adopted sibling in a family. And America's the house, right? And you grow up and there's this monster under the bed, racism, and it just fucking scratches you every night and it goes back under the bed. You call for your parents, fucking the president, police, whatever you want to call them.
Whoever they are.
And then you're like, there's a monster in my bed. And everyone in the family's like, there's no monsters. You're being ridiculous. Yeah. And you feel that every single day. And then eventually you get to this point where you're like, well, I must be making this up. Mm-hmm. And then I added to the metaphor after George Floyd, which was, it's like George Floyd getting killed when when COVID was happening. Everyone's in the house together. This isn't like name any one of the black people.
Sandra Bland, Eddie, George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, Laquan McDonald.
You keep going on. And it wasn't like society's going on like normal. You have shit to do. You're not paying attention. But this time, this was the first time we're all in the house together, watching the TV together. Everyone sees it. And it's like the monsters rampaging through the house now. And it feels like the family got split too. Feels like it's like your mom and your brother are the liberal whites who are like, oh my God, I see what you're totally see what you're saying now. And then your dad and your sister, like, they dig in and they're like, well, what did you do to the monster? Well, there's some bad monsters and there's some good monsters. Yep. And then to take it even further, if my dad's fucking favorite TV gets broken in the mayhem, Target, I don't give a fuck because the monster's here and you're seeing the monster. So that's the metaphor I have for it.
I think that's completely spot on. I think it's spot on, that whole metaphor. And then when you was talking about George Floyd, everybody being inside, it takes me back to that MLK conversation, right? Where people were able to just witness, slow down whatever the shit that you were doing, going to Goldman Sachs, going about your day. Everybody's inside. You're able to witness the horror that we've all known along, right? We've known all along what happened. So to see that play out in real time, and it's like, it makes sense, right? I understand it changed a lot in terms of, policy, I hope, but it's never really about policy. It's about, we're going to get these individual cops off. But I think a lot of issues with liberalism is it's systematic, right? Like if it wasn't George Floyd, it would have been Joe Johnson, would have been this, down the third, because it's systemic. When it's black bodies, people are seeing those things as an individual. We need to stop these cops. No, it's all cops, right? It's the systemic power that's rampant. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the metaphor is right, because now the monster's gonna get up underneath their bed again, stop for a year or two. Like, we did it. We've ended racism, right? And then it just peaks back, and then you have to go through the whole process again to get 1 or 2 cops taking out the equation.
It keeps going
over and over again, bro.
But then to bring it to stand up again. So I want to be in theater. And so my family's like, no, you got to be a doctor, you got to be a lawyer, you got to be some sort of respectable, you got to be Obama. When Obama, oh my God.
That's what you need to be.
When Obama came out, bro, when Obama was around, my family, you need to cut your hair like Obama. You need to dress like Obama. You need to sound like Obama. We're going to name you, we're going to change your middle name to Obama. Like,
we're going to give you a 4-piece suit,
God
man.
Damn. So, like, that's the pinnacle of black to my family is Obama, which is, let me clarify, is nothing wrong with Obama's Obama.
He's a bad man.
Yeah, but you want to be in theater and you're the only black kid. That's gay. That's all that is. That's just gay.
Yeah.
And then the white, it's like you can't. There's a constant stifling. Like, for example, I'm going to stay calm while I say this. I remember I was maybe a freshman or sophomore in theater, and everyone's white, or maybe like there's an Asian or two, but everyone's white. And I watched one of the musicals. I think it was Bye Bye Birdie. And I was so excited. It was my first musical. And I was like, this is great. People are dancing. There's music.
This is what I want.
Like, I want to be a part of this. This is sick. I love this. And so I was like, how do I want to express myself? And I shit you not, I turned, it's going to be so goofy. I turned the movie Friday. I typed it out as a play. I typed it was all the same words. I think I switched out niggas and fucks, but it was essential because Friday works as a play. It's all in one area. And I keep being told we're supposed to be colorblind. Like me and 32-year-old Aaron understands, like, you don't go to a white school with basically fried. They're not going to be, come on.
They're not going to go for that.
They're not going to do that. It's not going to make sense for them. But if you're being told everything's colorblind and it's fine, look at this creative thing I did. Now, obviously, the school's not going to do this. But my teacher, in my opinion, I'm not gonna say her name. I'm not saying names. I'm not saying names anymore. But this lady, this chain smoking bitch, she
chain smoker.
Oh, her teeth were fucked up. Just grimy. You know what I mean? You ever see sewer sludge? It's just like chewing on sewer sludge, bitch. So she, not only does she make fun of me, does she mock me? She mocks me and tells all the other kids in the theater class. She says, wouldn't you believe Aaron stole the script of Friday and gave me the script of Friday and said it was his. It's like, bitch, that's not what I did.
Just change the dynamic of it,
You
right?
manipulated what I did. I'm a child saying I want to express myself through art. You are a fucking theater teacher.
Yeah.
And that's what you're going to do? Like, and it was that. It was that.
Bro.
And so anything I tried to make short films. All the little other theater kids around me said it was fucking stupid, and so I was a waste of time. Fucking haters. I did plays. I did whatever I could, and I had to fucking fight to do the things I do. And that's where, and then to bring a little positivity in here, I think that's where Black excellence comes from. We have in the 90s, you couldn't. Will Smith couldn't flop. Nigga,
Yeah.
Denzel can't flop.
Yeah.
It's a rap if they do.
The culture is on. They're on your back. We are on your back.
There's a reason why Chadwick Boseman meant so much to us.
Right.
He fucking killed it every time. And so, artistically, just being stifled, it fucks with your confidence. It fucks with everything. So I've had to like fight to get to where I am now. I'm contemplating using a friend as an example, but he's in a bad place. So I'm going to be as very vague about this as possible.
Okay.
Buddy, I love this person. Was so popular in high school. Hilarious. One of the most talented people to this day. One of the most.
He's in the art class as well, so doing all the things that you were doing just naturally.
He was doing all the things I was doing, and I'll say this straight up: naturally, way more talented than me. Right. Naturally, way more charismatic. Naturally, more likable. On a level like he was that guy in theater.
Got you.
So he was so likable that even though he was in theater, everyone in school was like, "No, we love this guy."
No, got you. So
That-
he's transcended the art class.
Oh yeah, way transcended
class.
it.
Okay.
And I have to keep this vague. I'm going to tell you more when this is off.
Got you.
But essentially, he had a pop moment that was like, "Ooh, if you ride this well, if you make the right moves, man."
Next level type shit.
Yeah. He didn't. It makes me so sad because he didn't. He everyone was always like, "You're just talented." There was nobody told him he couldn't do shit, and now he's not doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that.
I think that's a really good point, bro. To go back, there's a few things in that what you say, because I really like that example. Because number one, you were getting shit not only from your classmates, which was supposed to be a safe haven, but your family as well, right? So the fact that you made it out of that double bind and still do what you do takes a lot of perseverance. So kudos to you. Happy for you to keep doing what you have to do. But I think there's something to struggle, bro. Yeah. As an artist, it's hard to have someone. We good?
We're good. Just making sure it's in focus.
It's hard to give people like I have people in my life like that, right? Like just naturally gifted, more so academics, right? Academics didn't really have to study. Like, oh, you're good. You a doctor, lawyer, Supreme Court justice, whatever you want to be, right? But then when you get to college, people not knowing how to struggle, not knowing how to adapt, I think that plays a large part, especially in show business, right? Entertainment. Like at some point, you're gonna, as naturally gifted as you are, you're gonna get a no, right? You're not gonna be able to ride that wave. What do you do after? And a lot of times, because because your guy was told so much, oh, you're gonna make it, that now it's like a triggering thing. Why didn't I make it? So that's probably a whole self, analyzation he's probably doing to himself. Whereas you were never told that you were gonna make it. So like I'm gonna put more energy.
Yeah.
I've been told no all my life, so another no is not gonna impact anything. You can create because you don't have that pressure that you're going to be the next guy, right? And then when you make it to be the next guy, like I did this because of the struggle. That's black excellence, right? That's what that is.
And it's like I don't want to have toxic positivity. I don't want to say like, good thing we went through all of this, so now we have great comedians. It's like, no, but at the same time, there's something to be said about it. And sometimes I feel, you ever seen Atlanta?
I've seen a few episodes.
Oh,
It's one of those things. I don't know why. I don't think I had what was it, Showtime? I don't know. I didn't have the.
it's Hulu.
Damn, I ain't got no excuse. I ain't got no excuse.
I will, if you up for it, man. I will happily make Atlanta Day once a month. Atlanta Day, and
I gotta watch it.
Please. But in season 3, this is no spoilers. Every season has a theme to it. Season 3 is the theme is like white people are cursed almost. Their affluence and their privilege curses them and makes them unhappy in a lot of ways. It just strips you of something. I don't know, but alas. So comedy's going, you're doing comedy in Chicago, life's happening, then COVID hits. So COVID hits, what's going on for you? What's happening on your end?
COVID hits. I wasn't doing much, so it didn't impact a lot of shows. I was pretty much open micing it, like obscurity, right? I was with a few of the people that still kept doing it, doing the Wild Wild West. And I felt myself, there was a lot of opportunities, right? When you talk about chaos, there's always opportunities in chaos if you know how to ride that wave, right? Like a lot of people, for example, when COVID hit, LA got shut down. Everybody went to, Austin. Texas. So one of those things. So there was a small little thing happening in Chicago. So there were still shows happening. A few comics were doing their thing. So it didn't really stop for me. It just kind of revved up. And I always remember because my buddies was pivotal for me because, at the time, the producer was doing the show. Dario, cool guy. He was doing his show, but then it became like a COVID thing. So I got invited like maybe 2 or 3 times, and then they pretty much gave me my buddies, right? So then I had my own room. I became a producer. And then, like, I found a niche within, like, doing stand-up, which I love, but also producing, making money to a certain extent. And now I've ridden that wave from, like, maybe 2 or 3 years. Now I have a successful few shows. And I think a lot of it was because, like, I realized, like, you can make your own shit, right? I love going to the clubs, but at the end of the day, I don't like to be dependent on others for success, right? I would much rather give my own shot, create my own lane, and just produce my way out of obscurity.
What does success look like to you?
I think making a living off my art. I think for me, whatever that looks like, I got to dream bigger in terms of I want to be a multi-billionaire with comedy, right? But at the end of the day, if I'm able to stop working my day job and do what I love, create sketches, do stand-up, host, do my own shows, that's success for me, and still being able to afford the things that I was doing with a full-time job, eating off my art.
I'm with you 1,000%.
That's it. Yeah. Everything else is, gravy.
Do you feel like where you're at, you're on that track? Do you feel like I don't want to think too far ahead in the future because that leads to anxiety, but do you I don't know, where do you feel like where you are right now? Like,
I think I got a long way to go, man. In terms of what I'm trying to do, I just got a house, bro. So like now,
you got a house?
Yeah, I got a yeah, bro. Me and my lady got a condo, so which is cool, is cool. But now it's like I'm cemented, but not
golden
necessarily
handcuffs.
a bad thing.
Right.
But now when I say cemented, is like now there's a factor, right? I can't go to like a cheaper apartment if we're doing it right now. There's a mortgage involved. There's different things. So
you're not living in this.
I mean, this is see, as a studio, I lived in these studios, right? Which is good because now, like, if say you want to quit stand up or start doing stand up, full time, the cost of the cost of doing that is lower compared to what we did, which is cool. But now I know it has to be bigger. It has to be a bigger ante.
Right.
I've had some moments, but I also know like with my shows, I've gotten to a point where, I can pay a bill or two, which is a lot better than 2 years ago, right? When I was making, $20 a show. So now like if I can continue to do that and continue to ride, it's just a lot of it is, like you said, an anxiety piece, because I think comics, we live so far in the future. Like if I do this, if I do that, I'll be able to do this. So now I'm trying to remind myself, like, enjoy the process, bro. I'm 5-6 years in, and if I keep going for 6 years, another 6 years, I'm at 12. What happens then, right? So It's a long game.
I get you, and it's like, I get you, especially with the enjoy the process part. I think I'm hitting that right now. Summer. I'm learning about seasons. Nick, winter is a different feeling.
Winter's a fucking grind, bro. I've went into several depressions in Chicago winter.
It does. There's no light.
There's nothing. Go out and make motherfuckers laugh. I can't even laugh myself.
Yeah. When summer hit, there's something that my spirit wakes up again.
Yeah, like a reawakening day.
But yeah, I've been struggling with that for a while, moving to Chicago, because like I've been doing it. Well, at the time, it would have been about 6-7 years. Then I come to Chicago, nobody knows me.
Start all the way the fuck over.
All over.
Quick question: why'd you? Because you started in Where'd you start at?
Riverside, California.
So why not make that move to L.A. or New York? Why Chicago?
All right, watch me answer this. Riverside people, if you're listening, watch me answer this.
This is like,
because it's when you do a podcast, you say the same shit over and over again. And the fact that this is a podcast of getting to know new people, those people are asking me essentially the same stuff. So whoever listens consistently knows roughly what I'm about to say. Riverside. How it feels about Riverside. So, all right, a little bit of fuck you to whoever's listening. You know who you are. So technically, I started stand up in San Diego.
Okay.
I went to school in San Diego, Cal State San Marcos.
Okay.
And I didn't know how. You think like, oh, you gotta be famous to be a stand-up. I didn't know what the fuck to do. I didn't know how to find mics. I was very confused.
You started in college, right?
I started in college basically, and it was sporadic. So I never say if I had started for real, I would have been like doing comedy for goddamn 12 years at this point. But it was sporadic. I was learning, whatever. Then I moved back to my hometown, Riverside, and I tried to go to a mic in LA, which was like, goddamn, 2-hour drive, I think, 2.5. And I get to this mic, I get 3 minutes, the worst fucking, comedy. It was terrible.
Hey, nobody laughing about it, waited.
And not only was I just not a good comic, and I knew like, this isn't sustainable. Like, I'm not going to be able to get better if I get 3 minutes driving 2 fucking hours.
Yeah, that's real.
So I started an open mic, and very long story short, because we're talking years, that open mic ultimately built to its own scene, where I was producing with 2 other buddies of mine. We were producing 6-7 nights a week. We were
open mic or shows?
Both. We were.
So y'all created a scene.
We created a scene from the ground up.
In Riverside.
We created a scene from the ground up, and that comes with positives and negatives.
Yep.
And so by the time, and I was miserable the whole way through. I wasn't happy. And so when COVID hit and everything shut down, obviously our show shut down, and I had time to think. I had never had time to think. Yeah. Ever. And I was happier, I was calmer, got into Buddhism, meditation, all of that. And I just felt better.
Right.
Then things started opening up just a little bit, just enough. And I started going out again. I started seeing people again. And that awful anger and that depression just latched back onto me.
Oh, okay. Immediately. As soon as you got...
Very quickly.
Damn.
Yeah. It was like I'm around all these people again. I don't know what's going on. And so I'm making a long story very, very short, but I was like, okay, I need to leave. I didn't know where I just knew
the fuck up out of
I
here.
gotta get out of here. Something's wrong. And I had hit this. I'd been doing street stand up for the past 2 years.
So just on a park bench with the
So you see that car battery?
Yeah.
So I would bring that car battery. I have a converter over here. I play bass.
Okay, that's
yeah,
funny.
I didn't want to bring it up when you brought it up. I tried. I failed at bass. Well, I slapped that shit. I'm a funkadelic in this bitch. So during college, to make extra money, I would go on the street and I would perform. Mm-hmm. So I knew how to set it up. And Dave Chappelle, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not getting booked anywhere but my own shows. I'm kind of too far from LA. I don't like that drive, and I don't like the vibe, if I'm being honest. I don't like the vibe of California. And so I just started doing street stand-up like a few months before the pandemic hit. So then things open up enough for me to keep performing. I'm performing all throughout all of that. The performance after George Floyd becomes more of a protest than a performance. Shit gets dangerous. I don't know if you know that I have a head injury.
I did not know that. What do you mean?
Okay, so I have a shit memory. Terrible memory. And part of it is trauma growing up. Part of it is probably all the weed. And part of it is, I think, a head injury. So I was performing with a friend. Luckily, that friend was there. We pack everything up. We're sitting there. It's me. If I'm me and you're him, we're talking. Right. Lights out for me.
Just gone.
Completely unconscious. So some guy, I don't know who he is, but apparently he walked this way and then came around me, then he hit me. He was offended by something at some point I said on the street. I don't know what I said because I was doing comedy for like 6 hours at a time, like on the street.
Damn.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So just with his fist? Or?
I don't know.
So where was your guy? He did see the whole thing? Or?
No, I love this guy, and he is a very calm person. He's from Detroit. He's very calm. Never seen him angry. He's joking. He's laughing. I've never seen him like the way I saw him that night.
So he was just lit.
He was ready to kill this person. We had finished. I got into the hospital, and someone called an ambulance. I have like a huge ambulance bill that has put me in further debt because America. And afterwards, and it's still all kind of hazy, but afterwards I remember he was like, "Do you want to find this person?" Because he saw I don't know what this guy even looks like. He's like, "Do you want to find this person?" And I could see in his eyes like, yeah, I could feel. You remember Boys in the Hood? When Doughboy is like, we found this nigga, and Cuba Gooding Jr.'s like, let me out the car, man. Just let me out. I felt kind of like, I was like, luckily, I'm not in the right frame of mind for this. I'm still hazy. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I just got out of the hospital.
That's insane.
So we actually became a lot closer after that.
I can imagine. Shit. That's some real shit.
Yeah. So I have a shit memory, man. So it's embarrassing. Like I don't remember people's names.
Okay.
And so I'll be out here in Chicago. I've been here for 2 years, going on 3. I have people, hey, what's up, Aaron? I'm like, what's up, man? What's up, dog? It's been a minute, man.
My guy.
This is the
dude.
dude.
Faces or just everything is just...
It's mostly names. Sometimes it's faces. Okay. But mostly names. I literally was at a show fucking last night, and when someone knows you and you know...
Face lit up.
And we start talking, and I'm like, okay, now I got to navigate this, make it not weird. And it fucking sucks because I can't be like... I know we've met probably like 7-12 times. What is your name again? I have a head injury. Well, see, back in Riverside, Riverside?
What happened? Oh,
yeah. And it happens over and over again. And so Riverside and California as a whole, just it was filled with trauma. I couldn't go I grew up in Riverside. I couldn't go to San Diego without trauma because of all of my college experiences. I couldn't go to LA because I don't fucking like LA. I don't like the vibe of LA.
So you going driving 2 hours to a spot you don't like.
Fuck
right?
that. And then I can't stay where I'm at because there's nothing but trauma. Oh, there's where I got jumped. Oh, there's where my mom yelled at me because my dad did da-da-da-da. Oh, there's the school where all the white kids did all the white kid shit. Like, I was like, I need to go. And so I ultimately decided Chicago because I hate the heat.
Really?
I hate it.
Me from California. Really? That's
Man, I was gaslit to no end because everyone's like, "Well, you in Cali? This is the greatest weather." It's like I hate it here. I'm always hot. I hate it.
You should have. Yeah, you're here now.
I'm
You're in the
here.
Midwest now. That's
I'm
wild.
here. I love it.
That's wild.
I moved to Chicago and I was like, "Oh, I was born in the wrong place." Not to compare it to transgenderism, but to some level,
That should be here.
I get it. No, I pretty much get it.
Transition into a coat.
So hold on, let me let me restart this shit. So, it was a lot of personal shit. A lot of like I'm not in the right space, so it's worth starting over. For at least I'm be happy.
Mm-hmm. That's real.
And I had built this glass ceiling for myself. Like I had built a cult following, where I would go places and everywhere I went, oh shit, that's Aaron. And
You got it. Yeah.
but it was scary because now it's like, well, I don't know what I said. I don't know why. I remember one time I was in downtown Riverside and we were barking. We were barking for a show. We're standing there hanging out. There's 3 guys. One was like, he was across the street, and one was like, Aaron Chase. And they all crossed the street, and I was like, what's up, man? And he's like, man, you funny, man. You real funny.
Do that to me, bro.
Yeah, you hilarious, man. That one joke you made, that was really funny. And I was like, thank you. Appreciate it.
That's crazy in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. So it was like, it's not like the city. There's not people around all this. You seen Get Out, right?
Yeah.
When Lakeith gets, he's like, he's in this,
snatched up.
there's no one around.
Yeah.
And it was just dangerous. And so I'm out here now, and I was like, let me figure myself out. That first year in Chicago, I made nothing but mistakes. I figured out everything that wasn't my fault from Riverside, everything that was like that's racism, that's people projecting on me. I also figured out like, oh, that's my fault. Oh, Aaron, you fucking ain't nobody around. It's just you. You made that decision.
That shit, yeah.
And that first year was nothing but fucking up and trying to learn from those mistakes. So
That's real, bro. I mean, I'm glad you're here, dog, because that's to be able to make that transition from I'm going to California to this. Have you ever been to Chicago? Visited Chicago?
I visited for 4 days when I decided I was gonna go.
Oh, so you just went there at least for damn.
Yeah.
Did you hit the scene? Like, what was the first mic you hit?
It was so. So when I visited, it was still during pretty heavy lockdown.
Gotcha.
And I ended up in Boys Town. And as far as I knew, that's Boys Town in Chicago. As far as I knew.
Yeah, you didn't know shit. Like, hey, okay, a lot of flags around there.
I was like, oh, this is very friendly, expensive but friendly. Right. And so I was. So when I first, what was the question? The
first mic.
First mic. It's gone now.
Oh, the mic is gone?
The mic is gone. And I wish it wasn't because there's so many mics there. It was North Bar. North
North Bar?
Is at North Bar.
Yeah.
I miss North Bar.
I didn't do a lot of North Bar. That was a wild.
It was a wild place.
That was a wild motherfucker. Just say crazy. I went and then I fucked up. Did you go to like the midday, the afternoon one on Saturdays?
Tried that once or twice.
Oh,
that was not fun.
Oh, what are we doing? Y'all don't want to hear jokes right now. Y'all are waiting for a drink right now. That's crazy.
I have like 2 more things, and I'll wrap this up. The first thing, right here, if you don't want to talk about it, just let me know. This has happened a few times.
Oh yeah, we can talk about that.
Okay. I to give some preface, I eventually wanted to interview your partner as well, but I want to make sure you guys are your own. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're very open about it because we have a shared, like our LLC is connected. We do joint shows together, so we have a house together. So at this point, like we
made a decision.
Yeah, it's concrete. So
how as a comedy couple? Nah, that's even. I don't even like to word it like that.
Comedy couple
as a duo, as the Key and Peele, but dating. Nah, I mean, if you don't mind getting into that, like, because I know that it's always a roll of the dice when you're.
I mean, So when we got connected, she approached me first, right? I always thought she was a beautiful woman, but when I saw her, like, oh shit, this is, so I didn't really like. Well, let me preface this by saying, she's the first comic that I really dated, right? I was always to this point where, I don't know if I want to date comics right there, right? Or right now, just because of I know the type of life that I live in terms of late nights, all these different things. So when I found out she was a starting comic, we had other things in common, right? We both went into higher ed. We both have some like lived experiences. She's from the South. She's from Tampa. I'm from Alabama. Like, oh, this is cool. And then we just kind of grew from there. And she really became my right hand woman in a lot of different approaches. When I was with Jokioki, at my buddy, she was co-hosting. She was doing the DJing, and then now she helps me with Chronic Laughs. So, but I think the hardest part with this is just finding that balance, because now we're comedians, we're business partners, and roommates as well as partners, right? So it's hard to find that line, because I've been doing it for 5 years. She's been doing it for almost 2 years, right? So she's very much good she's a Libra, right? And that means something, right? She likes to take breaks. I don't want to do comedy right now. I don't want to talk about comedy right now. But for me, it's all consuming. If I'm not working, if I'm not eating, it's comedy. So I think we've had to find a balance between finding time for us as a couple versus comedy. And that's been the hardest part. That's been the hardest part with our relationship. It's never about money. It's always about time for us.
That's a very healthy answer. That was very good.
Yeah, I try. I've been thinking about this shit, bro. We've had some moments. We've had some moments on the brinks of shit, but if you boil it down, it's literally you're making more time for comedy versus more time for the relationship.
Right. I think it's scary because of the Me Too stuff, the balance of entertainment, what happens if it falls apart. Well, now y'all both in this, that whole thing. So that's I'm glad that I'm really very happy for you.
Appreciate you, bro.
We've never got to sit down and
talk. Right? It's always what's up? Good to see you, bro.
That was hilarious. Yeah. That's all.
But that's a lot of it is too. A lot of it's like that.
Yeah, and that's why I made this podcast. It was like, admittedly, not every podcast is smooth. I don't know anybody when they walk in this door, and then I kind of.
That's the beauty of it.
Right. So in getting to know you in this conversation, and I hope around the scene more, you just, I don't know, you exude a very, this might sound sexist. This would be interesting.
Exude.
You exude,
tell me more. I ain't no exude.
You, to me, you come off like a real man. Do you know what I'm saying when I mean that? Like you are what Fresh and Fit think they are. Do you know what I'm?
Yeah, it's not like
I know that's not a good comparison.
I see what you mean. It came from a place of struggle, right? I think a lot of it is, a lot of my experiences with the activism shit, knowing like, I can't be. I'm also like I'm a real chill dude for the most part. But
yes.
Sometimes I'm too chill. I think that goes back to me not being able to talk. So it's easy to be in my head. That's why I'm always in my head in a lot of different ways. And Andrea, my partner, she's the firecracker. So like a lot of times she's the turn up when I'm like, calm down, baby. So that's how it goes a lot of times.
Okay, this is not going to be an apt comparison. Because when I say man, I hate the way it's now, it's like anger, aggression,
hyper masculinity.
Right. That's not what I mean. Like, I was working on a bit about this, but like Mufasa. Mufasa to me is the perfect man. He is strong when he needs to be. He's soft when he needs to be. He communicates when he needs to be. He's violent when he needs to.
I'll take Mufasa.
Mufasa, you got Mufasa.
James Earl Jones. I'll take that shit.
And the last, I was just curious. That hearing aid. What's going on?
Oh yeah, bro. I got this just became a bit. I got hearing aids like early. It's been like maybe 6 months ago.
Okay.
So this is a long story. So basically, when I was a kid, I had tubes in my ear, because I kept having ear problems, right? So I didn't really knew what that meant. My parents would be like, hey, you had tubes in your ear, so tell your doctors that or whatever, right? So fast forward, I couldn't really speak, I couldn't really talk. My hearing was always muffled, and throughout my life, like, you should go to a audiologist. You should do this. You should do that. And I finally went, and the guy was like, "Yeah, you're pretty much like 50% of your 50% of my left ear is gone, and maybe 30% of my right ear.
Okay.
So at this point I'm 30, right? Like I always talk about like that means my parents didn't love me. You didn't get me an audiologist, right? So so that's what that was, and I think that's hand in hand with and a lot of times when kids can't hear well, they can't really speak well. So I think it's connected. But throughout my life, bro, I just thought everything was just muffled. So it's helped, but now it's like a transition period of like now I'm a little bit more.
What does it sound like when it?
It just amplifies it. It's weird. It's almost like a knob on like your TV, right? Or a volume. I can turn the volume up. There's different functions. Like right now, it's on bass function. I can go if I go to a concert, more of the music. If we're just having a one-on-one conversation, I can connect it to my Bluetooth and my phone. So it's like almost like headphones. So
that's badass. That's kind of cool.
It's cool. And now, like when Andrew talks, I can just mute them bitches and I can't hear shit, baby. Sorry, it's not working. So yeah, this is very new. Like maybe like I said, 6 months.
Okay. And are you gonna keep losing your hearing, or is it
No? So the guy was like, it's very weird. Like I think it was something I was born with at birth. So it's not like you're in a bad accident or some shit, you lose your shit. Or I don't think I have a tendency outside. If you get older, of course it might get worse. But I don't think it's gonna get worse as just regular worse, I guess.
Okay, regular people worse. Mm-hmm. Okay, I was about to say if you need to learn sign language, you let me know. I'm an interpreter.
No.
Oh, I'm an American Sign Language interpreter.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Shit, bro. So is that your main gig, or?
That's how I make my money. That's how I pay
Oh shit! I had no idea, bro. Like I took sign language for for a semester or two.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Is it a good hustle? Is it good? Cause you work for the government. I'm just curious now.
Now it's better now because I'm in a better headspace.
Okay.
When I first, to get into the whole punching down thing, actually, when I first started learning sign language, I was studying mass media communication because a degree. I don't know.
Right. You just need something.
Yeah.
I got you.
And I realized after my first year, like I'm not learning anything. Like I don't know how to do anything. And I was starting to get scared. Like when I graduate, like what am I gonna do? And thank God I had that feeling because now it's like people's lives are fucked because they got goddamn liberal arts degrees.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah. And so my mom was driving by the School of the Deaf in Riverside. And she was like, learn sign language. I said, okay. She's a very forceful woman. She knows like if bass guitar, I'm learning how to draw, I'm taking jujitsu. If it's tangible, if it's something I can touch and experience, I'll learn it.
Okay.
And she knew that, and so she was like, learn sign language. I said, okay. Damn. And so I went online, looked up some basic sentences, hung out with deaf people, picked it up, so on and so forth. And when I first started doing it, there's this, people perceive disabled people as different. And they coddle and they treat them like all with kid gloves. And in the deaf community, the amount of racism, here's
it's always racism. It's always
crazy. Here's how you sign. There's 2 ways to sign nigger. So this way and this way. So this is the letter N, right? You remember that from the alphabet?
Yeah, actually.
Put it in there you go. There you go.
It's M, right? So
that's N, right? And then we have big noses, so.
Oh,
that's nigger.
Oh, so it's like, oh shit.
And then this is one finger. This is black. That's black. You're extra black, nigger. Like this is.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That shit. Oh shit. Oh shit.
It was crazy. And
that's insane.
Yeah, and to not get too dark, a lot of molestation, a lot of molestation, because the people that get molested are the weakest. Not weak.
As kids or
all around. Because people when someone's gonna go rape somebody, they usually go for someone who can't do anything about it. And so there's this issue in deaf schools in particular where get ready. So get ready. So these kids, these parents won't learn sign language. Like I'm not even exaggerating here. I work with kids. I have my degree's in that shoebox. But I still have proof of it. It's here. It's just in the shoebox. But my specialty is K through 12. So I've been working with kids for goddamn 6-7 years now.
Right.
And good 80-90% of their parents do not learn sign language. They just say, go read lips, or they send them to a deaf school.
Right. Which makes sense. The easiest thing to do.
And infuriating because you are fucking your kid up forever. You only have a certain amount of time to how to explain it. If you learned English, if you didn't know English or know any language up until about, I think 4 or 5. Let's say you started learning English at 4 or 5. You lose. There's a piece of the puzzle that's missing. Like you're never really gonna be able to express things completely nuanced. Like you just miss that time.
Yeah.
And
kids are like sponges, right? So if you don't, I guess, feed the sponge is gonna dry up.
It just dry up, it brills up, right?
Got you.
So these kids, and a lot of them will learn sign language from other deaf kids as they get older in like middle school. A lot of them are illiterate. And one of the issues that would happen is we got the school of the deaf, right? And that's throughout the country. And these kids will go back to their families where they don't know how to communicate with them. They'll get molested by an uncle or a fucking adult or whatever. Go back to the school. Some of those kids don't want to be there, and this is no shade to deaf schools. Let me clarify. But there was an incident where there was this little boy who was molesting all the other kids because he was bigger than them, and they're all in the dorm. So he's molesting them for a good 10 years, and they all
grow up together.
They all grow up
boarding school, right?
Mm-hmm. And they go back to nobody knows how to talk to them. They go back and forth and back and forth. I've had to interpret for pedophiles, for adult male pedophiles, because the women, there's not a lot of male interpreters. It's perceived.
So what do you mean, like the deaf male pedophile that was messing with kids?
Yeah,
deaf kids.
So I have to be. It's very difficult for me, but I have to be vague. For legal reasons. So, for example, this is just one example, no one in particular, I'm saying. Grown man gets out of prison. He is deaf. Keep it as vague as possible.
You don't have to go into the weeds.
He was put in prison because he was convicted for molesting a child.
Okay.
So he comes out. His family's there. We're with his lawyer or his PO or whatever. And I'm there to interpret. My job is to be it's called the phrase we have is called conduit method. Conduit method means you're not involved. You don't put your personality in it. You're there as a tool of communication.
Gotcha.
But this is a very sensitive situation. This man's family does not sign, which probably means he got molested, and here we are. They're not even they're treating him like he's fucking 7, right? So they're not even really talking.
And he's fully comprehending. He's not like
he's a grown man. But when you don't. It's funny how like if you don't hear someone audibly say things, your brain doesn't perceive them the same way.
Yeah.
It's if you hear someone speak Spanish, you're like, well, they're an adult speaking Spanish. But there's something about sign language where people don't respect it the same way. And so they're like, interpreter, tell him this. And it's like, this is a grown man. He's right here. Don't talk to me. I'm not a part of this. I'm not his fucking friend. I don't know him. All the time, dude. But this is one of my biggest pet peeves as an interpreter. If you're ever dealing with an interpreter with deaf people, look at the deaf person, act like the interpreter's not even here. Most people don't have that etiquette though. So, and then this guy, the family's talking to the PO. This guy's talking to me, and he's like, I didn't do anything, man. I'm innocent. Just believe me. And I'm like, I'm not a part of this. I don't know you guys.
I don't know why. I ain't see your fucking rap sheet.
Yeah,
I don't know the court proceedings.
And he's going through in detail what he says happened, and it's a mess.
So he's signing to you, and you're talking to the family.
I'm supposed to. They'll say, and then they'll talk to each other because they don't give a fuck. And it's like, you're probably the reason why he's in this situation and did whatever he did to that fucking kid. And it's this cycle. The racism, get ready. So before I keep going with these stories, I hated interpreting for a while because I didn't know what I was getting into. And I wasn't happy on my own. Right. So then getting into this, I guess it just made it worse.
Yeah, you're hearing all trauma shit sometimes.
Yeah. You don't realize how you're in people's personal experiences. So I was working at this school. was working at this school. One of what they do at these mainstream schools is what we call them. So not deaf schools, mainstream schools.
Okay.
That's with the hearing kids. When there's deaf kids there, they just kind of generally throw them into a room, all different ages, throughout the day. Sometimes they'll be in regular class. Other times they'll be in this room with this other teacher who is teaching them, who's also deaf. This
2 people, the student and the teacher. Teacher doesn't have anybody.
So, well, in this situation, because it varies from school to school, but it's essentially like this. So, the teacher of the deaf people in the school, he's deaf, and he's white. I walk in on this man. Throughout the year, I'm getting bad vibes. Throughout the year, I'm walking in on situations. I'm like, what the fuck are y'all talking about? This isn't appropriate.
And it was all white students?
No, mostly Mexican and black.
Oh.
Deafness tends to affect a lot of there's segregation within the deaf community. Isn't that a bitch, huh? I'm working on material about it. You'll hear about it on stage. But so this man, grown man, talking to Mexican and black children, grown white man, says to them, we need more white people in the country because it's unbalanced. He says that. And these little Mexican boys and girls are like, no.
I don't believe that.
I know, I disagree with you. But they don't know. They're kids. They don't know how to art. He's a grown man.
It's a power dynamic. Right?
Yeah. And he talks about building a wall. And there's this one kid, sweetest kid. I was with him. There was the last kid I was with in person because the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
So I don't even know what happened to this kid. But I would get to know this kid throughout the year. I would talk to him because I'm so sorry. It makes me so sad. But nobody talks to them. No one asks them their opinion on shit. So I'd be sitting there every day was the weather, Dragon Ball Z, which I was with him for a few months there, but you can only talk about Goku
for so long,
and girls. Oh, that girl's cute. That girl's cute. Like that's how he would talk. And coronavirus because it was creeping in.
Yeah.
And I would start asking him questions, asking him his opinion on stuff. And he would say crazy shit. He would say like, go into hell if you have sex and you can't. He said, I like this girl, but you go into hell. And I'm like, well, where'd you learn that from? That guy. And then I remember one time we had a school shooting drill, which is dark in and of itself.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there under the desk, and I'm like, hey, man. He's like, so we're talking, we're chatting. I'm like, hey, why do you think people shoot up schools? Like, why do you think that happens? That's really crazy, right? He's like, yeah, it is really crazy. And I was like, why do you think that happens? He said, well, it's black people. And he doesn't even, and he doesn't mean it.
Black kid or a
Mexican kid. Oh. He doesn't mean it in an offensive way.
He's just regurgitating as a kid.
Uh-huh.
That's what yeah.
He said he learned it from the news because the news will be on. He can't read for the most part. He's getting words. So he sees shooting, black, inner city, black rap. That's all he's getting. And then that guy told him that black people shoot up schools. And it kept going and going. And then I can't remember what happened, but it got to the point where it was like, this is objectively, like I'm a mandated reporter at this point. I have to say something.
Yeah.
But then this guy's the guy. I can't go to the principal. The principal doesn't give a fuck. I can't go to the agency. Well, I do go to the agency at the end of it, but then COVID happens and it all falls apart. And I never saw that kid again. All these kids, I never see him again.
I mean, they're going to have to relearn if they get the chance to relearn, right? A lot of it is, I feel like to a certain extent, everybody has that relearning once you leave high school. But at the same time, I noticed that when people perpetuate racism in the South, a lot of those people, their grandparents are from that town, their great grandparents, their parents. So you get indoctrinated really early. You don't get until you get to college where people saying, "No, that's stupid. This is why that's dumb." Your eyes are open. If you don't have that experience, or at least leave that area, you're gonna run into a lot of that shit.
But the problem is they're not going to talk to enough people.
Yeah,
they're in their own. It's a cyclical thing. It makes me go crazy.
And that kid's gonna know if they have kids. They don't say the same shit.
It's never going to stop. And so the whole punching down thing, like I do jokes. My jokes about deaf people are always talking shit about them, but not because I'm punching in my perspective, as we said, to break this full circle.
It's all perspective, right? Yeah.
It's because I'm treating them like you would treat them if they were hearing. I'm saying this motherfucker is saying racist shit. Fuck him.
Yeah.
But he's deaf, and so but he's deaf, and it's like no, fuck you.
Some shit transcend. Like, this bill is cool, but you talk about racism.
Yeah, this got dark.
Let's wrap it up. Let's do it. Something light and positive.
I know, right?
You gotta play the bass.
Man, I guess to wrap this up, dude, I would really like to I don't know, to hang out, to see you around the scene more.
Yeah, bro. We got to. 'Cause
Yeah.
we got a lot of similarities in how we kind of view politics and shit like that, and comedy in general. So yeah,
I'll be sure to bother you.
let's do it. Just don't forget my name, bro.
All right, Kadeem, I got that shit. All right.